You are tuned in to another edition of Americana Music Profiles, brought to you by Americana Rhythm Music Magazine and AmericanaMusicMagazine.com. I'm your host, Greg Tutwiler. Let's jump right in to the next exciting interview. Jeremy and Karina, hi, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi, Greg. Thanks for having us.
Glad that you guys could take some time out of your schedule and chat with us about your music and your band and all that kind of good stuff. Where are we talking to you from?
Well, right now, we're actually in Southern Illinois, where I'm from, because we had to take care of some family things, but we're actually based out of Nashville, Tennessee.
All right, cool. I noticed when I called you there was a Virginia number, so were you in Virginia at some point?
I am from Virginia originally. I'm from the south side region of Virginia.
All right.
And I still have the same phone number. I saw you're from Harrisonburg or somewhere up there.
Right, yeah. We get to do that now. We don't have to change numbers when we move around the country. That's at least one advantage of the modern technology.
Exactly.
So tell me a little bit about High Fidelity. You guys have been a band for, 6 years?
That is correct. We formed in early 2014, basically to enter the Stigma Band Contest. That's the Society for Preservation of Bluegrass Music of America. And they have the International Band Championship, I think it is.
Okay.
And we put the band together. Kurt Stevenson, who's our regular banjo player, especially on our records, the band was sort of his brainchild. And he wanted to have a group with me and Karina, and we pulled the Vicky and Daniel in. Kurt knew Daniel, and Karina and I knew Vicky. And, so we put the group together to enter the contest, and sort of our goal was to play early 60s, late 50s bluegrass in the style of group, kind of like Jim and Jesse and Reno and Smiley and that sort of thing, and do it in such a way that it would be competitive today, and we won the contest actually that year.
Yeah.
Right, and those first couple of years after that, we were all just sort of doing our own thing. We didn't really have any intention of High Fidelity being like a full-time venture, but we put a record together to actually get a gig in Arkansas that required you to have a band to have a commercially released record project, because I guess they wanted to make sure you were still going to be a band by the time the gig came around and promote it and such. And so we put our first self-titled, self-released record together, and Rebel Records heard that and said, we really like the music that you guys are doing. Would you consider doing a record for us? And after that, we've been really blessed, because it's sort of unfolded on itself. We've High Fidelity's kind of turned into this thing now, and we're like, wow, we never imagined it would get this far.
Yeah, for sure. Has it, obviously circumstances have kind of altered things for everybody, but prior to the first of the year, had it been a full-time venture for you guys?
It was becoming much more that way. I mean, we are full-time musicians, Karina and myself and Vicky, for sure. And we all do different things, but High Fidelity was becoming the majority of things, especially for me and Karina.
Yeah.
And definitely last year it was our full-time job, and looking ahead to this year, we were even busier, and we thought, wow, I hope we can just juggle all these things. That the Lord kind of has a way of changing things up on you.
Yeah, that's for sure.
But no, it's it was definitely our full-time pursuit by March, before March.
Yeah. Now you said full-time musicians. So are there other band projects, or just other things related to the industry that you guys do?
There's other things related to the industry, but also Karina and I, we've been members of Jesse McReynolds' Virginia Boys for since 2016.
Okay.
Prior to that, I was full-time with the Chuck Wagon Gang, the gospel group, which we performed in Harrisonburg a few times.
Yeah.
that's kind of been a primary pursuit, and we freelanced with different groups at different times.
Okay, yeah.
So being in Nashville, it's just kind of what you do.
Yeah, and Jeremy, I'd say in High Fidelity, really everybody has their own artistry too. We come together and we enjoy playing the roots of bluegrass music, like getting into the history and channeling that style of things. But we've all got our own artistry, and Jeremy, he's actually got plans for a solo record this year.
Oh, cool!
And I have a solo record in the can, and Kurt performs with his wife as well. Daniel's got all his own music. He plays with multiple bands and has her own artistry. So yeah, we all definitely, we're blessed with talent in High Fidelity. A lot of different interests and a lot of different abilities.
How has the pandemic, slowdown, lock in, all those, whatever word applies, how has it changed the music for you guys and what you've been able to do and what you hope to be able to do as soon as we can get back out there?
Well, for me, Karina mentioned that I've got a solo album I've been really wanting to do for years. I did one when I was 16, and that's the last time.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That was 20 years ago, and actually was very blessed to have done that with Rebel Records.
Mm-hmm.
And that was sort of my contact with them for all of this coming together for High Fidelity so many years later. And I've wanted to get back and do another solo record that sort of showcases what I'm doing now and my abilities now, that have been developed over the last 20 years, So for me, it's given me a chance to really kind of hone in on that and look toward doing things that I can do from home, in preparation for that and preparing the studio time. And, of course, all our gigs were lost, so we've spent a lot of time at home together. We've had a wonderful time and keeping a garden and lots of pursuits along those lines that have been very rewarding.
Yeah.
And in terms of High Fidelity, it's given us an opportunity to focus in on sort of our business side of things, how we do things, and focusing in on our online audience. I'm sure everybody's eyes are, on what they can do online, and we've always sort of made that a priority to communicate with friends and fans and folks on the internet. But this has definitely given us an opportunity to work that out and say, how can we make this more efficient? How can we stay in touch with people and just not lose touch with people while everybody's at home?
Yeah, for sure. How did you guys come up with the name High Fidelity?
That was Kurt that actually came up with that. He had thrown out that and maybe a couple other names, and I was sort of resistant to it because, that sounds like some, a catchy modern name that somebody would come up with. So it's based on older things, the albums that came out.
Right.
As well back in the 50s and stuff before the stereo era. High fidelity means it's the monophonic recording that's just high quality, basically.
Right.
The stereo days. And so all those record albums were just slathered with those words, high fidelity on all of them back then. And since that's kind of the era we were going for, Kurt thought it'd be a cool name. Well, I couldn't come up with anything any better. Something Mountain Boys, I was going that direction.
Yeah.
So we just ended up going with it, and it's been great.
Yeah.
I couldn't come up with anything any better.
I think Kurt said, we were throwing out all these names for the contest, and then he said, well, I have this idea of High Fidelity. Is that cool or is that stupid? It's kind of like, when you have a unique idea, I guess it's like you can't always tell. But I was
right,
like,
yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
And so we went.
Yeah. Well, being from the older generation a little bit, I immediately connected with that as an older term that defined a lot of the early music. So it definitely, certainly anybody over 40 will certainly catches that pretty quickly, I would think. So yeah, that's good.
Yeah, a couple of the guys that were judging the contest, when they heard our name, they told us later we knew what it was going to be about. You know, after we heard your name announced.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Oh, it's going to be good, or whatever.
Yeah, and it's been a great point to, hear all about history and education in our music, knowing where we came from and stuff. So for folks that don't know about it, it's been a great way to sort of introduce people to our music history and kind of give them a vision into that world, where we came from, and get people interested in that era of things, so they can keep looking back and digging in.
Now, when you guys are putting together recorded material or your set list, even, are you doing all original material? Or are you covering songs from that era that line up with that ideology?
It's definitely the latter, Greg. We actually haven't done any original songs as of yet. We've sort of thrown some around, but for us, the style of the music is what we're trying to convey, that the style and that vibe.
Sure.
That encompasses, the songwriting and the content in there, the flow of the lyrics and everything. So we haven't found anything that really fits exactly the mold that we have for stuff and the vibe that we're going for. So Jeremy is actually an avid record collector, so we dig a lot into his collection, and with especially Jeremy, Kurt, and myself being interested in the history of the music, we pull from a lot of obscure recordings and things that we can sort of rework into our style of things, even if it's not something directly from that era. We definitely are not into necessarily like carbon copy. This version. We have done certain things like that, like our version of Student Banjos. That's basically, we're basically just doing the original arrangement on that to bring it to our audiences today.
Right.
But the important thing for us is finding material that seems to work in that style, and whether that's older songs, whether that's directly from that era, or whether it's something original, we're down to do it.
Yeah, that's cool. And speaking of that, you've got a new record. Is the record itself out or just the single?
No, the record is out. It was released June the 12th.
And that's Banjo Player Blues, right?
Yeah, Banjo Players Blues.
Yeah, cool. Tell me a little bit about that. How did you decide which material that you wanted to put on that record?
We basically kind of do the same hazing for material for all of our records, and we try to find material that is relatively unknown or completely unknown to a lot of audiences today, and so we seek to find material that's obscure, and we dig back into my record collection and things that we're aware of maybe or whatever. So, and there's several artists that we pull from quite often. Charlie Monroe was one.
Sure, yeah.
James Martha Carson and Reuben Ray are some of the artists that we particularly like their songs and their music and arrangements and all. So a lot of the material comes from there. And, the gospel music is a strong part of our lives. We're believers in the Lord Jesus, and so it's not something that we make ourselves do on each record, but we do like to include a few gospel songs on our albums as well, and try to very carefully pick those to have a strong message.
Now the single, "His Charming Love," tell me about that. Is that who was that from originally?
We do have a video.
"His Charming Love," yeah.
Yes, that comes from the Vaughn Quartet. It was written by one of the early convention songwriters, O.A. Paris, and he wrote for the Vaughn Publishing Company down in Lawrenceburg, Tennessee. The Vaughn Quartet recorded it in 1928 for Victor Records, and the 78 actually, a friend of mine, Kenny Rohr from Danville, Virginia, there, had it in his collection. He just found it and played it for me one day when I was at his house, and
wow.
man, I love that. And I ended up buying the record from him because it's outside of really what he collects primarily. And I just always liked the song after hearing it, and I held on to the record and hoped I'd be able to do it with a group at some point, and it just seemed like a good fit for High Fidelity.
I love the video that you guys did with it, with that kind of the old choir style and the harmony that you guys put together with it.
Thank you so much. You know, one of the things that is interesting for a bluegrass band and the style of stuff that we do is that 4 out of 5 of us can read music.
Oh,
you might
okay,
think,
cool.
You know, yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
And 3 out of 5 of us, in particularly, read tape notes. And
Oh,
Jeremy
wow.
taught me that,
Yeah.
notes. And so having that, you know, you think, oh wow, this is a really cool attribute that we have here that it just kind of, you know, came out of nowhere. It wasn't like, oh, you have to read notes to be in High Fidelity. It just happened to be one of those things that we had in common. So we thought, what is something we can do in sort of that convention style? Vicki had grown up listening to the Chuck Wagon Gang and gospel groups like that, old-time country gospel groups, and her voice lends itself so well to that. Daniel grew up going to singing schools and doing things like that. So that was really a way for us to showcase the variety of vocal style and talent that we have in this band. And Kirk Stevenson is playing the second acoustic guitar, which is interesting because he's normally the one that sings the baritone parts on our trios. Normally it's me and Jeremy and Kirk. So it was just a really cool way to feature everybody in a different way.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I'm playing the lead guitar, which both of them are playing rhythm, you know, but all the lead interlude, I'm playing that. Kirk's playing rhythm behind me, and Kirk's not singing. We got to feature Vicki and Daniel singing with us on that.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, cool. So what does it look like when we can get back out into the world and start sharing music again? What is taking this new record and your music back out on the road look like? Do you foresee that yet?
I don't know if we know, Greg. You know, everything is just in such an interesting spot right now.
I know.
And I think everybody's just trying to transition to how we can stay in touch, stay in community, and continue to bring music to people in the now. So I don't know if we really know yet. You know, we have done, we did one live show that was in Gaylock, Virginia, and we were very impressed with how they were handling things and all the safety measures they put in place. It was all made a lot of sense. And it was great to be out there with a live audience, and we got great feedback on it and stuff. People really enjoyed it. Haven't heard anything bad come of it. You know, so I think that we'll see promoters and event venues and stuff like that just finding creative solutions for, you know, how can we safely open things up so people can feel comfortable and musicians can feel comfortable and everybody can still have a great time going out and stuff like that. So I think we'll see a lot more ingenuity and creativity while people are figuring out how to open things up.
Right.
I think as we move through toward, you know, more towards the end of 2020 here, I think that we'll have a better scope of maybe what's ahead. We already have some of our dates that were this year. We've just rolled them over to 2021.
Right. Yeah.
We don't take anything in the future for granted because we don't know what tomorrow holds. We know who holds tomorrow.
Sure.
And we're thankful for him, no doubt. But I think as we move forward in the upcoming months, maybe we'll have an idea of what we can expect for
I agree.
the coming year.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, so the new record is out, and if people would like to get in touch with you guys, they'd like to see the new video, they want to listen to some more tracks on the record, what's the best way to do all that?
The best resource is our website, highfidelitybluegrass.com, and we're on all the social media platforms as well, or all the biggies at least. We're on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and the best way is for people to check out our website, and there's a store on there. I believe there are song samples. All of our records are on there. And, yeah, there's a contact form if people need to get in touch with us.
Yes, and for our music, people that want to consume our music, of course, we appreciate folks purchasing the physical product from our website at FidelityBluegrass.com by clicking on shop. But if you're a streamer or you like digital downloads, you can find our music at those places like iTunes Music and streaming is Spotify and all those places.
Right, yeah, all the places you need to be now, right?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, guys. This has been great, and I enjoy the music, and I certainly wish you well, and we look forward to catching you on the road out there as soon as we can get back out.
Thank you, Greg.
Yes, thank you so much, Greg.
Thanks again for tuning in to this episode of Americana Music Profiles. Find us on iTunes at Americana Music Profiles and on the internet at AmericanaRhythm.com.